Can I be the one to say I'm Addy and you say this is and I'm Esther?
Of course.
Because it's always I'm Esther.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I just want to switch it up.
Should we do like, hey guys?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey guys. Okay.
Welcome back to Lazy and Untitled.
Okay.
Youth's over soon, this is the natural law. There's a younger generation, knocking at the door. Knocking at the knocking at the knock.
Hey guys, welcome back to Lazy and Entitled.
I'm Addy.
And I'm Esther.
And we have another special guest for you guys today.
This is an astrology episode. We are going to get our charts looked at and discuss that. We're really excited.
We're going to discuss our compatibility, and I'm a little bit nervous because we have signed a lease together. And if we find something out here, that might get in the way.
Yeah, you know,
the happy
danger zone. Hopefully this doesn't create tension. Thank God we're not driving back together because I feel like that'd be an awkward car ride.
Esther and I haven't seen each other for a week because I have had COVID in summer of 2024. Of all times to have COVID. Are you kidding me?
Seriously.
Crazy.
Tragic.
Crazy that that's still happening. But here we are. And now she's saying she doesn't want to drive back with me, even though we haven't seen each other in a million years.
I hate it. Wait, do you need a ride back?
No.
Oh,
I don't.
Shoot. I was hoping that you did.
Our special guest today is a good friend of ours and a Rhinecliff local. Her name is Danika Marie. She is a professional astrologer and lifelong student of Western astrology who has been in practice for over 2 decades. She holds advanced certification with a diploma in psychological astrology. Danika offers a humanistic and practical approach to the art of astrological interpretation. She assists others in connecting with the elemental energies that support their particular life path and ongoing development. Danika, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi.
Thanks for coming. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And nervous and excited.
Yeah.
Let's get right into it.
Let's get down.
Tell me, how are we as friends?
As friends, you are a natural couple. It's like a harmonious, beautiful, spiritual, creative, artistic connection. And I have a sense that you met in some sort of artistic group setting because that is sort of where your chart speaks to your first kind of...
Did you know that already?
I swear to God, I didn't know.
Oh my
we
God.
grew up doing theater together from a very young age.
Okay,
yeah.
I can tell you haven't listened to the podcast, but it's okay.
But I can tell that you're also very good at what you do.
I can tell.
There you go.
Really are a professional.
I did listen to the podcast only, though, to your last episode, which had to do with food. So
yes.
I didn't learn anything about your...
I think that's good. I think that's
Connection.
good. You're coming in
Yeah.
No, you want to go. You want to go in with a clean slate.
Exactly, and get a sense from you what your friendship is about and what you connect on, because we want to sort of like focus in today. So you can ask me questions, and it's also helpful for me to get a sense of where you want to start, what you want to talk about, so we can steer the session this time in the best direction for you. But
Love.
What are you thinking, Addy? What are some questions that you have?
I mean, I'm thrilled to know that we make a good pair as friends. I'm wondering, is there anything in my 11 houses about a roommate?
It's so interesting. Well, I mean, that sort of speaks to specific timing now, which is known as transits in astrology. So what I sort of drew up is actually transits. So I can see that you're both going through some really like strong growth themes in like areas of like your home and also just probably educationally as well. So there's these real structural shifts happening. So it makes a lot of sense that you have just sort of decided to take perhaps your relationship one step deeper. In more ways than one, I would imagine. There's a level of like deepening of the connection and the bond. And if we just start from the basics, right? So Esther knows her sun sign. Cancer. Right.
I know my sun sign.
You know your sun sign. Most folks know their sign is Aquarius.
I know my sun, moon, and rising.
Aquarius.
Right. So it's the big three. And most folks these days know the big three, right? So if we just speak to those energies, then we get a sense of your connection. And what's interesting is if you know your big three. You want to just say them?
Well, I always forget what my moon is. I know I'm a Cancer sun, Aries rising.
Right.
And maybe an Aquarius moon.
Yes. And so Addy is an Aquarius.
Aquarius sun. I think I'm Gemini moon and a Leo rising.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
So in relational astrology, the key pieces to look at are compatibility between the big three signs. And the major, like, most compatible connection that you have is a connection between the outward self, the vitality, and the self that is expressed to the world, which is you, Addy, as an Aquarius. And Esther has her lunar nature in that exact sign, which is also Aquarius. So that's a really good starting point. And that was the recognition for me, because Aquarius is the sign of the social group friend consciousness. And it speaks to connecting in some way, in some sort of group setting, and you have a fair amount of artistic and theatrical energies between you two, which is kind of a generational thing, because a significant generational planet, Neptune, which rules imagination and film and artistry, so you probably like to imagine and play together in like outer worlds.
We love playing together.
I would imagine, as much as you feel the connection to kind of be responsible for your collective generation and for just like social justice issues, and that's usually a huge goal or mission in the life of Aquarian energy. So it speaks to Addy's energy being in alignment with your energy as well, and that sun moon dance.
Interesting. Well, that's beautiful.
I love that.
It's beautiful.
I love that.
So when you sat down to do this, what were, like, I guess the first thing you looked at were our three main signs, and then from there, where did you venture?
So a few things that I think that might be interesting for you to know just in general in synastry is like attracts like, right? So that's a thing. And then opposites attract as well. So these are things in astrology that we look at. Esther has a night chart, meaning she was born in the evening, meaning that there's a connection to lunar energy, and your moon energy is really powerful and really strong in your life, like the behind the scenes connection to life. And your chart is a day chart. You were born during the day. So just that sun, moon, again, yin, yang, lunar, solar energy is compatible, and you help each other because there's a bit of more elemental energy in the sort of watery domain for Esther, which is the ruler of her sun, which is a lot of like emotion and what we can sort of feel underneath the surface of thing. And Addy is much more above ground. So even just in the sort of energy of thought being a dominant or air being a dominant element in Addy's life, right? So air consciousness and water consciousness. And air consciousness is sort of the collective care, and water consciousness is that personal care. So that dance is also really interesting, and it's important just as individuals to connect and harness that within the individual, to be like, am I caring for myself as much as I am caring for the collective? Am I caring for the collective as much as I'm caring for myself? And I would say that that's a lifelong theme for you both as individuals, but as friends, you can help each other.
Love that. I'm going to help you, Addy.
I'm a little jealous that you're like this like nighttime water, like sultry mystery woman.
Well, here's another thing.
I have all my cards right out.
It's kind of crazy.
But the water piece also is past consciousness, and your air piece, Addy, is future consciousness. So I would imagine too that you're like, there's ahead of your timeness. There's a sense of like just being able to connect with energies and plug in ways that you might not even understand or be aware of consciously. And with Esther, there's an understanding and a meaning with past consciousness and how to sort of bring that into the present. So you have to you want to utilize those energies to your advantage where past doesn't overwhelm present, and that's an Esther theme. And for you, Addy, it's where future or goal or thought around what I need to be or become doesn't overwhelm present consciousness.
Wow. That's so interesting. I guess that makes sense because I'm a very nostalgic person to a fault. Like it really gets in the way. I am always looking into the past.
That's the classic Cancer challenge.
Yeah.
And the longer you have relationships and the older the relationship, the more that tends to be.
Yeah. Wow.
So Esther's dominant energy is water. And again, you have this dominant air and can learn from water. So there's 0 energy in your chart that's actually watery. So I would even be curious what your relationship to water is. Drinking water.
I don't drink enough water.
She does not drink enough water.
So it's a very literal astrology. It's so literal in that way because once you get an awareness of it, you can understand where we lack energy and where we can just start to infuse our life with it. So drinking more water.
I'm very picky with water. I have like a really specific taste of water that I think I have like a really specific like water pH that works for me. I don't
Yeah, and to really
I don't know really what's up with that.
To be connected with that and just be know that you want to just make sure that you're getting enough fluids. That's like an important part of the energy.
She loves to drink out of my water bottle.
Yep. But I like water otherwise. I like rain. I like swimming.
Yeah.
Things of water.
Yeah.
I like. So I don't know. That's actually interesting to me that I don't have any water in my. Because I don't think of myself as someone who's not in touch with like the internal.
Right.
Like more sort of mystified parts of myself that aren't collective or that take more thought and personal care. I think that I am a pretty emotional, like individually emotional person in a lot of ways. So I'm surprised that I don't have that.
It's interesting because we will often be drawn to energies that we lack naturally and like connections and kinds of like practices. Like I would imagine there was depth in the theater connections too. Maybe there was some fun and joy, but there might have been more intense, maybe feeling, emotional, dramatic kind of, you know, where the feeling self could really express itself, which is kind of wonderful. And I will say, Addy, just to share that like there's always a spectrum of energy in terms of how water can manifest. And water is really about like tending to self-care, tending to how I feel, tending to the needs of the body, tending to the needs of the emotional life. And that's something just that we can all learn from. I will say, Addy, too, I lack water in my chart, and my whole life is all about like caring for like people and tending to the needs. So I tend to just infuse my life with water by way of just practices and habits and behavior. So it can certainly be infused in our life, and it's this sort of lifelong practice.
Yeah. I want to know about like the tension between us, where tension might be. And then I'm also
tell us now because we got to start prepping.
Yeah.
Well, how do you experience tension? You've been friends for a long time. Do you have a sense of what?
Well, Esther and I didn't like each other when we were little.
Yeah.
So that was
we had fun together. Obviously, like we used to play together when we were kids, and then we got along. But I consider Addy one of my closest friends now, and it was not like that until last year.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't click until maybe like right before you moved. I think we became friends sort of in high school because we did a cappella together.
Oh.
It was terrible.
That's a little deep cut.
Yeah, it was honestly so bad, and we kind of bonded through that. And then I left.
And then she left, and then we became close when she was here.
Yeah.
But God, like we haven't had a big kerfluffle in our friendship yet.
No.
We have been very close in the past year.
Yeah.
But I'm sure living together, speaking from experience of living with friends before, nothing like living together to bring that out.
Absolutely.
Esther knows, like...
Well, that's the deepening that I'm seeing in your chart just across the board, is like a deepening of not only your connection, but it's going to bring out the sort of relational dynamics and the aspects of each other that are... Because again, that watery part of you, that sort of, and you have that Mars rising, so your Aries rising is also, both of you have this sort of creative outlet. I will say that the work for the challenges is to just come back to play, like come back to creating together. If something comes up, then it's about like bringing your imagination into it, like make a film about it, or like do a little piece about it, or write something about it. That's so much about how you can creatively move through challenge and turmoil. And then I would say talk about it. Bring that vulnerability to the air.
Good at that.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I feel like we've had like bickering moments. Like we get upset with these little things, but we come back together very quickly. Like we're pretty good at just being like, in the moment, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Not in like you did this and you need to do this. But I feel like both of us are not shy about being like, we need to talk about this. And also both of us can be like, yeah, I was being an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we're both capable of doing that, which I think is like the most important thing to be able to do.
That's the most important thing. That's huge. You both have air moons. So again, compatibility by sign or by element is huge. You both talk and are comfortable expressing your feelings. And Addy, that's your gift too, is just like talking out emotion, talking out problem, talking out, and also from perspective, to be able to like zoom out, because the gift of Cancer is like narrow subjective focus. This is happening to me. This is the whole big deal. And the gift of Aquarius is to be able to zoom out and be able to go, whoa, wait a minute, and see a bigger picture or see a different angle. And I think that you can both bring that gift to the collective, because both subjective and objective consciousness are important. It's important to honor what we're feeling and experiencing as individuals, but it's also important to be able to zoom out and give fresh air, literally, to the energy.
So interesting that, because I also with like, I don't know if this kind of has to do with that, but one thing that happens to me with my work in school is that I get really fixated on the amount of work that I have to get done. And like Addy has experienced me like for multiple weeks being like, I can't hang out. I have too much work to get done, even though I totally like, I could get that done. I'm capable, but it feels really, I get very fixated on it. And then Addy's like, I feel like you always have so much work to get done, but like, how can you have that much work to do? I'm like, you don't understand. It's all around me. I need to just like
and then you drown in the water and you drown in the experience of it, and you need to just focus on that. But to be able to like move out of that too is helpful.
But and Addy, you like feel like you pull me out of that. You're like, let's make dinner, let's go do something, and then it like, you know.
It's because I don't get that's the thing. Like, it's so interesting to think about it from the standpoint of like, oh, I'm thinking about the future rather than thinking about the present, because the thing that I do to procrastinate is often like, oh, I'm going to plan this trip, or I'm going to buy this for when I go here, and I need to shop for that now.
Yeah, and you've been looking for stuff for the apartment, and you've been sending me all these links, and I'm like, I can't do this right now.
I go on Facebook Marketplace, or I go check like ticket prices for some trip I want to take like 6 months in the future, and I always think that I'm like giving way to like instant gratification of like, I'm going to procrastinate by doing this. But now that I think about it, I think thinking about the future gets in the way of thinking about the present, which is why I'm so good at pulling Esther out when she's drowned, because I'm like, let's make dinner instead of have a night of work.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Well, I think the gift of you both is like implying some of the earth energy, which is the sort of practical, realistic now moment. What can we do in the moment now? And I would say, you asked about tension. Yeah. Like the challenge is to be actually for you both in the present, in the earth together, on the ground. Do something in your body together. Work together with your hands, make dinner. Something that's nourishing for you both in the present tense is the gift, because again of that past future kind of consciousness that you tend to fall into.
Interesting. Yeah.
But you share that air moon again, so that's like a huge thing. Again, Gemini moon, talking it out, first air, trusting and learning about your emotions, Addy, through communication. I mean, that's huge for you. And then being able to look at different perspectives. And then you have that Aquarius moon. So it's a little bit of a funny mix, because here's that future consciousness moon, which suggests maybe if the moon is the past too, you know, coming from a large group of folks, or an unconventional childhood in some capacity, and that influencing aspects of the present tense as well. So sun energy is, again, our vitality. We can think of it as our spirit. Cancer energy, Aquarius energy, the body consciousness and the vehicle through which we drive ourselves through life, ascendant. You have a fire ascendant, Aries, first sign of the zodiac. Like, let's take an action. Just take an action for yourself. Take an action to get yourself going in a new direction, and that will help move energy. And Addy can help with that, because she has a Leo rising. Do something creative. Fire energy, playful. do something that's like collaborative in that capacity. That helps to lift out and also brings us back to the present. And then again, the moon energy is more of the, what do you need soul consciousness? You have body, ascendant, and then you could say spirit, sun, and then soul, and need is the moon. And you share that same element, moon. So there's that movement of getting out of the head and getting out of maybe even the routine a little bit.
My moon is
Aquarius.
Oh,
You have a sun moon alignment.
Yeah.
You have a sun moon, what's known as a sun moon conjunction in astrology. That is one of the most compatible synastry glues that you can have.
How does astrology come into play in like nature versus nurture? Because I think a lot of what you're describing, the looking at two perspectives thing and having collective consciousness, I've never thought of as being very intuitive for me, but it's something that is like, that's what my mom is all about. And she, as my like primary caregiver my entire life, and I think that so much of my like moral compass and also the way that I look at things, whether that's intuitively or how I've learned to look at things, she lives by like, yes, but what can I do? Not like what did I do to cause this thing to happen to me, but like what can I do to make it better, or how can I see where this person was coming from in any conflict, or like what can I do to pull myself out of something, anything. Like it's always a collective consciousness and always is seeing things from another perspective. And I wonder, her birthday is October 14th. What is that? Is she Libra?
She's a Libra.
And a lot of my best friends are Libras too, and I really wonder what that has to do.
There's that connection between Aquarius and Libra that's same air sign, similar consciousness again. And here's the thing about astrology and nature and nurture, both are true. And when we look at just the sun consciousness in the chart or the moon consciousness, it does speak to the kind of family of origin to a certain extent. So whether we experience those qualities in ourselves, we may or may not, but somebody in our family does. So if I were to say to Esther, and if she were to say, I'm not nostalgic and I'm not into the subjective, all of that doesn't happen to me, then we would figure out that somebody in her family.
There's a good chance someone in Esther's family is anything, because she's a huge family.
I have a massive family.
You have a massive family.
Yeah. Can you tell by my chart?
Yes. Well, when you have a moon in Aquarius, often there's a sense of like coming from a collective like clan and an unconventional, a bit of it looks like family consciousness was really huge.
Yeah.
Both of you just have that gift of like working through your emotional and like experiential life circumstance and then like sharing it and seeing what other people think about it in order to kind of bring you back to yourselves and to your own understanding. So does that answer the question, Addy, about like that you'll something about astrology, and certainly the kind I practice, is that I can see where you might be hiding out in some other part of your chart where it might be more comfortable to, say, exist in your Venus sign. And I didn't want to get too, like, I didn't want to go into too many directions, but like you have Venus in Cancer and she has a Venus in Capricorn. And
oh, interesting.
Opposite sign, right? So it's like there's a bit of an old soulness to that too. I don't know if you experience yourself as like sort of being drawn to old place or architecture or like people.
Just kidding.
People, yeah.
She likes older people.
Capricorn is the sign of the elder. So it's the sign of like also being mature young or feeling a little bit like older. Maybe when you're young and getting a little bit younger as you get older is a little bit of a reverse thing you can look forward to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the Venus in Cancer is like a natural placement for, again, the mothering principle and often the caretaking principle. There's a way in which there's like inherent in your friendship with that Venus line of like inherent inner mother or inner father or inner yin and inner yang energy that you kind of share. If you can, it's kind of like a really good combo. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Capricorn is like the realist and the now and practical and getting things done and being like, I'd say on some level, just like I get a worldly sense of just being able to kind of be practical and connected to like your work or like your schooling and your responsibilities.
I think that's the area that I need to learn to be more comfortable in, because I feel like that's where I'm the most short-sighted, I think, is like really keeping up with my drive, my responsibilities, my work, my like being grounded in something practical. I think I often have the tendency to get lost in something else. But I think that Capricorn area is really what my mom excels in. That's like the vibe that I grew up around.
I feel like
sure.
I see you wanting to do that too.
Yeah,
Like
I definitely do.
I see that for you.
I mean, I think that just might
Well,
come with age.
again, also the like contract between you, you can help each other ground into earth. That's the work to do for both of you, is to ground into the like consistency and the sort of body consciousness of something that's like a way you can show up every day for yourself, a way you can show up every day for each other that is like habitual in a positive way. So by drinking maybe more water or going for a walk at a particular time where you're in this sort of embodied consciousness. Because as a generation, there's so much of like air energy and technology, and that being sort of like needing to unplug. I would say needing to unplug so you can get your feet on the earth. That's really important, because Addy too, like there's a beautiful thing about Aquarius where there's like an otherworldliness. And I don't know if you experience this sense of sort of being like, often it's a tendency for Aquarius to come into this lifetime feeling a little bit like maybe like an alien, or maybe a little different, or like I kind of landed into this family and I feel different, or some quality. And if it's not that, maybe it's the father lineage or something energetically that it's like learning to tap into this sort of sense of feeling like a distant star and needing to kind of find your footing on the earthly plane. I mean, that's air energy for you too. And as the second to last zodiac sign, it's high consciousness, you know, for better or for challenge, we'll say.
I'm also curious about the earth in my chart, because I remember when I got my chart read a couple years ago, you were talking about how I don't have very much earth.
You don't.
And how it's really important for me to also do that, to walk around and to go on walks, like actually like take my shoes off and like get grounded, because I don't have that grounding energy. And I feel that with my stuff, because I have a lot of ambition and a really like big drive, but I get up in my head and I'm like procrastinate and I don't get my stuff done. And I think that when I go for a walk, I feel much more grounded to be able to get everything done.
Yeah, so you experience a similar thing that she experiences because you have that shared Aquarius energy. So getting up in the head, lost in the clouds. Like we use phrases a lot with astrology that relate to astrology. Like she's got her feet on the ground, your head in the clouds, a real firecracker. Like the elements come through, right? So yes, by actual planetary energy, but you do have some earth, and it sort of sits in the career sector of your chart, meaning like when you make it like a point to show up for something on a regular basis and talk about things that are actually of an earthy nature. So Cancer rules, again, nourishment, ways that you nourish, food consciousness. That's a key way that you can ground yourself, is by like having a really just more intimate relationship with food and how you nourish yourself.
Yeah, I don't take very good care of myself when it comes to food.
Yeah,
I don't.
That can be a little bit of a I get it. I get it.
And Addy does. I feel like you like to like, I'm just like, I'm hungry, I'm just gonna make some pasta and eat it.
Right.
And you're like, let's make it taste good. Let's like take 5 extra minutes and actually make it taste yummy.
And that's
I'm like,
really
it's fine.
Venus in Capricorn too. That's where you can like really just like be like, let's make this, let's have a high vibe about it. Or let's like be refined in it. Like your refinement of that sort of earthly experience.
Well, like, do you literally remember, like, over spring break, you were at my house and we were making pasta, and I was like, yeah, let's just put some, like, cheese and butter on it. And you're like, well, do you have some lemon and some garlic powder, some salt, some pepper? I was like, oh, yeah, and it was delicious. It would have been good the other way, but it was much better this way. That's, like, that happens.
But sometimes you need to just
Scarf down a bowl of pasta.
Scarf down a bowl of pasta with butter.
Yeah. But, you know, sometimes it's worth taking those 5 extra minutes to really enjoy that meal.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess you kind of already talked about how the first thing you noticed was our, like, opposite attract, or, you know, you noticed our big 3, but I wonder what was, like, one other thing that when you looked at our charts side by side,
really
like,
stood out to you.
Yeah, like, what stood out to you?
Well, so this sort of speaks to the generation you're in too. So Neptune, which is the sort of creative, illusory, like soul bonded energy, was in Aquarius when you were born. So it contacts your sun, Addy, and it contacts her moon. And that's what spoke to me about like meeting under some sort of like theatrical circumstances, also feeling, having a sort of soulful connection that I would say the good part of that is being able to create and be imaginative and like be like, well, you're experiencing me as this now. What do you think of this? And like being a different sort of energy into the mix of the connection. I would say the challenge of that is just being clear with each other, seeing each other for what the truth is rather than an illusory or imagined or like sort of romantic ideal. I would say that can come through with a little bit of a moon Neptune or a sun Neptune contract between your relational energies.
That's interesting too. I feel like one of the issues that we do have is me thinking you have some opinion that you don't have. And you're like always like, Esther, I'm on your side. Or with like little things like when we're, about Sunny. And then you thinking, like, I think one of the biggest tensions that we've had that really was not a big deal was when like people came over to the house that night and I like didn't really know it was going to happen. And you felt like left out because I was like, oh, I'm going to bed. And then people came over to my house and I like went down and hung out with them. And like from an outside perspective, that seemed like I was like being sneaky, but I wasn't. And then I sometimes think that you have some intention that you don't actually
That's
have.
really interesting.
Yeah.
That's very Neptunian to kind of like almost be like diluted or not quite have a clear sense of what is actually happening, having some sort of experience that isn't maybe the truth. And so that's the work, is to just be like,
I definitely have that, but I also just have OCD. Like,
Yeah.
I think I can
That is
warp
true.
things pretty easily.
Yeah. I mean, you have Neptune contracts in your life. So that's also the piece of like feeling like you both as individuals and collectively need to like put your feet on the ground, because the energy is of those final 2 zodiac signs. It's very ethereal. There's something that's sort of like magical and boundless about it, and like wants to dissolve into things and merge into things and lose the self into things. That can be a challenge, right? And so it's like the work of that as remaining as individuals, but also like staying in the sort of like sweetness of the spiritual connection, whatever you want to call it.
Totally. And that's also interesting because we grew up in Vermont very much in the nature, or like nature was a very big part of our upbringing. We need to start going on walks together. Let's do that. I'm also curious about what you see for our future. If that's possible, what
you
do
mean
you
together, or it's just like individuals?
Together, I guess.
It's interesting. I did want to bring through that you're a Pluto and Sagittarius generation. Does that ring a bell, or do you know anything about that too?
A little bit.
I don't.
A little bit.
Okay, so
Start from ground zero.
Okay, so Pluto is considered still a planet in astrology, dwarf planet, technically by astronomers, and it's the deepest transformational energy that helps guide the principles of our life. And so as a generation, with Sagittarius energy, it's fire sign, it's the 3rd fire sign. It's often interested in like testing or challenging ideologies and belief systems that you grew up with, or that are like feel dogmatic or limiting, and like blasting that open. So you just have to stay on track with that, and also be willing to be more vulnerable. And I think the living together is a huge ticket, because if you bring literally this into that space, which is great, Cancer always like, it's like, can I open up the doors to my private den?
Yeah.
I
love my door being closed so much. And our living room is connected by like, it's like our living room is in the middle and then our doors lead into it. I think what we've been talking about today, and also what I've noticed in our friendship, is that, we've known each other forever. We've always had this like tie to each other, but it's been this like slow progression to getting closer. And I guess I'm curious if it's only going to deepen from here. Like, will we stay connected? Do you see us staying connected for a while, or do you see us like branching apart from each other again in the future? But I know you can't like necessarily tell all of that, but I guess it seems that way, that it's just slowly becoming stronger. And
that's what I see, is that you're very significant for each other's growth in this very particular important growth period of your life. And the more you stay sort of connected and in contract with the energies that are important, like bringing the water through for you. And like, you know, I mean, that might sound silly, like me drinking more water is going to keep my relationship with Esther clean. Like, that's great.
Bringing me the water.
She's bringing me the water. But there definitely appears to be like a sort of mission that has a growth potential that is long lasting. That's what I feel and that's what I see. But it does depend, like the kind of astrology I teach or study is there's free will in there.
Right.
And it's about your own independent individual growth as well. And just being like, I would say more transparent with each other, yourself, and the collective. It's really, really helpful for not just the collective and the bigness of the world, but yourselves.
So I guess it makes sense that we have a podcast. We are bringing this to the collective.
I thought this would be interesting. You might like to know you were born under a waning crescent moon.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Oh, of course, because it's your moon. Yeah, it's your moon. So moon consciousness is really powerful. And you were born under a waxing crescent moon. So it was like, again, waning is growing smaller into consciousness. Waxing is growing bigger. Another way that you are like these great sides of the moon, which is wonderful. And the importance of unplugging, sharing of experience because of your moon compatibility, right? It's moon in air is expressive consciousness. I talk, I share, I figure out how I feel. And I allow that feeling to change and evolve through the sharing of experience. Community responsibility, again, that trip, the way that you both as a pair can strengthen each other's internal need for earth consciousness, which is that present moment, that feet on the ground. Because water and air both are expressive. And they're like, if you can't hold on to air, you can't hold on to water. I mean, you can try to contain it, but so there's...
Can you hold on to, I guess you can hold on to earth.
You can hold on to earth. Earth is the most, earth is the most of that sort of stable, material, practical of the energies.
Yeah. And I don't have any of it, so I gotta start holding some dirt. I'm gonna. Yep, there you go. I'm just overflowing with emotion, and your head is in the sky.
The creative part, though, that's the big thing.
And then
I have a final question before we wrap up. I recently became aware, I was tipped off to this website that you put in your big three, and it like aligns you. It's astrological cartography or something, where it highlights areas that coincide with your astrological chart. And I'm curious, like, I want to know if anything stands out to you as like places that would be really like vibrant for Esther and I to live based on our chart.
I've had to pull the astrocartography.
Oh no! Well, actually, what's funny is when I had my chart read a couple years ago, we did that.
Yeah.
And Bellows Falls was one of the places, which is this town right next to where we grew up. And I used to do theater there.
Oh, that's interesting because often there's a full circle energy that comes through for Cancer. Like they end up back. Where they like...
Oh my God, you're moving back to Vermont. I don't know if I can do that with you.
No, like just in your life that there might be full circle moments that draw you back home, or it's always like about coming home to your home. Yeah. Like feeling at home with wherever you are. But I would say that there's I mean, with the Gemini moon too, I mean, home is wherever you make it in a way. Like there might have been a little bit of like on the wind of that energy too growing up, of like movement. That's the astrocartography piece.
That's the next episode.
It's different.
We'll have you back. Now we have to have you back.
I'm so curious now.
There's always more. Astrology is very Aquarian, by the way. It's it falls under the umbrella of Aquarius energy. It's just like constantly like there's more and more and more and so many angles and so many ways to like look at a chart.
Yeah.
And it's endlessly fascinating.
So interesting. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
this
you.
is so fun. I wanted to go on and on and on.
I know. It's such a delight to be with you both.
You're so well spoken about all of this. It's so beautiful. I love it. I really do.
It's so eye-opening for me because I know like you've explored this before a bit, but I'm like, besides like co-star, which is like bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about and besides just the general perceptions that are like Geminis being two-faced or whatever, but that's like obviously in my big three, so I've always been curious about that.
Right, and everything is a spectrum, so you could say that under like the umbrella of Cancer, it could be like nostalgic and homey and subjective and nurturing and motherly and homebound. And there's all these wonderful qualities. And then it's really about the language we choose to articulate, like saying something like two-faced. I find that very, like, with any sign. Everybody has their gifts and their challenges. Gemini is ruled by the twins, so they might experience a sense of, I feel that way, oh, but I kind of feel that way too. So it might just mean, like, honoring the duality and the difference inside you and not seeing it as a problem, you know? Or if I want to just flit around and be on the surface of something, or socially, whatever. I mean, if that's the way I experience life,
Yeah.
that it's a gift. And that's something that if it works for you and feels good for you, then you honor that.
Sophia's a Gemini, my sister. And I've dated like 3 Geminis. And I will not be doing that again. Exactly. Yeah, that's so interesting.
Well, thank you so much, Danica.
Thank you.
It was so much fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, really great.
Yeah, thank you.
I wish you both the best.
Oh, thank
Fabulous.
you so much.
Plug your Insta, girl. What is it?
It's at Danika, Danika Marieh. Often write about the full and new moons on Instagram, and you can also message me there if someone was interested in a reading or something like that.
And you have a website? I was perusing it the other day, actually.
I know that is in need of update, actually, at the
okay.
moment. But yes, danikamarie.com. So that's Danika, DANIKA
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have a lot to think about.
Yeah, seriously, I have some reflecting to do now.
Danika, thanks so much for joining us. Just to remind you guys, this podcast has been produced by Jennifer Hammoud, Matty Rosenberg, myself, Addy.
And myself, Esther.
Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Talk to you soon.
Love you.
Love you. Mwah.
There's a younger generation, knock, knock, knocking at the door. Knock, knock, knocking at the knock, knock, knocking at the knock, 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 knock.